Hello, today I'm going to be doing a bookshelf tour. I haven't done one in about 6 months, so here we go. This is the first shelf. Here we have The Torrents of Spring by Ernest Hemingway. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. To Have and Have Not. For Whom the Bell Tolls. Across the River and Into the Trees. The Old Man and the Sea. Islands in the Stream. The Garden of Eden. And True at First Light, a fictional memoir. I have A Movable Feast. There are 2 editions. The one on the left is the original, and the one on the right is the restored edition. There's a little controversy over what should be included in what order. So they're slightly different, but you could read either one. I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. Here we have Death in the Afternoon, a non-fiction work about bullfighting. Now we have The Green Hills of Africa. Ernest Hemingway on Writing, which is a collection of different things Hemingway had to say about writing. Then we have the short story collection Men Without Women. We have the Nick Adams stories. The short story collection In Our Time. A bigger collection of Hemingway short stories. The Fifth Column, Hemingway's only play. The Snows of Kilimanjaro and Other Stories, another short story collection. And here we have The Dangerous Summer, which is another non-fiction about bullfighting. And the end of my Hemingway collection. I actually do own The Sun Also Rises. I'm just letting a friend borrow my copy. This is Island by Aldous Huxley, one of my very favorite books. Here we have To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is the short novels of John Steinbeck. So in one collection we have Tortilla Flat, The Moon is Down, The Red Pony, Of Mice and Men, Cannery Row, and The Pearl. A really great value. I think I got it from Barnes & Noble for like $25. Here we have The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, which I've never read actually. And here we have East of Eden, which is one of my favorite novels of all time. Then we have To a God Unknown. Once There Was a War. The Winter of Our Discontent. Travels with Charlie in Search of America, which has a review on my channel already. And John Steinbeck's Journal of a Novel, The East of Eden Letters. Here's a quick overview of the second shelf. We start my Jon Krakauer with Eiger Eager Dreams, a collection of stories. Then we have Into the Wild, a phenomenal book. Into Thin Air, which is a recollection of Jon Krakauer's climbing of Everest. And next is Under the Banner of Heaven, which is about a specific murder that was motivated by religious purposes and focuses on the history of the Mormon Church and the FLDS, which is separate from the LDS. Next is Where Men Win Glory, which is about Pat Tillman, an American football player who decided to hang up his cleats to join the armed forces after the events of September 11th and kind of his fate. Jon Krakauer is an amazing writer. And then the last one I have, and as far as I know his most recent, is Three Cups of Deceit, which I don't really count because it's more of him personally settling a score with somebody. You can read the backstory about it, but it's definitely not, it's super short as you can see. And I don't know, I don't count it with his other stuff, but he's amazing. You should check him out. Here we have The Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick. I just did a review of this actually. Okay, here we have The House of Mirth, which is a wonderful book by Edith Wharton. Next, we have The Age of Innocence, which I actually haven't read, but I've heard is also spectacular. And finally, we have Ethan Frome, which I just read and did a review for very recently on my channel. Next is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, specifically the 1818 text, because I had a Brit Lit teacher who was very adamant about that. Next is Colonel Roosevelt, the third in a 3-volume biography of Teddy Roosevelt, by Edmund Morris. The second installment is Theodore Rex. And the first installment is The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt's one of the most interesting people in American history, or U.S. history. And this is a wonderful biography. I highly suggest, if you're interested in Theodore at all, to read this biography. They are long, but the way the writing is handled, it is very interesting and dynamic. Then we have Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I wish there was a lot more of her work. I feel like she kind of got booted out of the Harlem Renaissance kind of scene, and justice was not served to her and her writing until much later, and that's really a shame. Next, we have my James Baldwin, which starts with Go Tell It on the Mountain, which is one of my favorite novels of all time. Spectacular novel. Then we have Giovanni's Room. Going to Meet the Man, which is a collection of short stories. And Another Country, which is going to come up very soon on my TBR. I've been waiting to read this for a while, and I'm really excited to read it. Next up is the Gabriel Garcia Marquez, starting with 100 Years of Solitude. Followed by Love in the Time of Cholera. And then finally, my most recent one is Memories of My Melancholy Whores. Next up, we have the Barnes & Noble Classics mashup of A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man and the short story collection Dubliners by James Joyce. It's pretty cool that you can get both these together for like $8. Next up is my Ernesto Sabato, The Tunnel and The Angel of Darkness. I've read The Tunnel and reviewed it recently. It's a fantastic novel, and I'm really, really excited to read The Angel of Darkness soon. It's hard to find. I don't think it's in print in English anymore. As well as on The Angel of Darkness, if you can see, it says another one of his books is On Heroes and Tombs, which is like impossible to find in English. Unless, I could spend like $40 or $50 on one, but I'm not sure I'm committed that much yet. The final book on this shelf is Paddle Your Own Canoe, One Man's Fundamentals for Delicious Living by Nick Offerman of Parks and Recreation fame. This guy's like my spirit animal. He's hilarious and funny. Well, those are the same thing, but he's also intelligent, and he has a lot of very interesting things to say. I highly suggest, if anyone's into like comedy, and this is kind of a memoir slash literally one man's advice for having a good life. He also has a Netflix special out that came out recently called American Ham, which I watched the other night, and it is hysterical. Here we have the third shelf on this bookshelf. We have Hamlet by some guy named William. The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. Then we have the Kerouac with The Town and the City. The Subterraneans. On the Road. Big Sur. And The Dharma Bums. Next we have the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley, which is a spectacular book, really. If you've never thought about picking it up, I definitely suggest that you do. It's a lot of interesting information in there. Here we have Fast Cars and Bad Girls, which is a book about nomadic subjects and women's road stories by a professor I had. Here we have Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, both the first and deathbed editions, which is really cool. Here we have one of my prized possessions, a first edition of A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway that a really, really good friend of mine got me, and I keep in this little special case. I'm probably gonna have to figure out how to keep it better stored to prevent any further damage. But yeah, I really love this thing. It's my favorite Hemingway book, and that's really awesome. Here we have a Farewell to Arms, the Hemingway Library Edition. And this is actually the dust jacket design that would have been on that first edition when it first came out. So I kind of keep it here for that. And the Hemingway Library Editions are really cool. I think they just released The Sun Also Rises fairly recently as the Hemingway Library, because they include a lot of appendices, and they give you a lot of different insight into Hemingway's writing process and what he was going through as he wrote these books. The next author is Ruth Ozeki. She writes really, really weird stories, but they are beautiful in their own way. And I highly suggest you check her out. She's contemporary. So here we have A Tale for the Time Being, her latest novel. All Over Creation, which is her second and probably my most favorite of her works. And her first novel, My Year of Meats, which is really weird but great. Here we have Post Office by Charles Bukowski, his first novel. We have the novella Drive by James Sallis, which is what the movie was based off of. We have The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, which is a pretty good book. I liked it. Then here we have The Things They Carried and In the Lake of the Woods by Tim O'Brien. The Things They Carried is probably his more popular, but I really enjoyed In the Lake of the Woods a lot more. And then the last book on this shelf is Theodore Roosevelt's Rough Riders, which is his account of his time as part of that group. This second to last shelf is mostly just anthologies, so I'm not going to pull them out, but we have my Gwyn Literature Pocket Anthology, then The Civil War, a Narrative by Shelby Foote, it's 3 volumes. Then we have a Norton Anthology of World Literature, volumes A through F, and American Literature, volumes A through E. Then down over here we have The Old Man and the Sea, and a copy of In the Thin Air that includes like photographs and other things to kind of enhance the story that a friend got me. Here on the bottom shelf we have kind of like my oversized books. We have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all of them. The complete works of William Shakespeare, the complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe, the Ernest Hemingway 4 novels, which I probably have them all, another collection of Hemingway, and the United States Constitution, and then the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft. So that is all the books on this shelf. Hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to be splitting up the different shelves I have into different videos just for time.